Good morning, and thank you for joining us in the Black Box Theater today. My name is Christopher Olson. I'm an assistant store manager at the Bloomington Home Depot. And today I'm going to introduce Katie Ventura Mercado. She's our department supervisor of the paint department at the Bloomington Home Depot. And this is Briar, and Briar is our Ppg rep. And Ppg handles both Ppg lines of paint and also Glidden, which I'm sure you're all familiar with.
And liquid nails as well.
I'm sorry?
And liquid nails as well.
And liquid nails as well.
Yes.
Thank you. So this morning we're going to take about an hour and we're going to go through some new products, and then additionally Katie and Briar will be able to answer any questions that you may have, and we're going to talk about some paint techniques and tips. Pretty loose, so if you've got questions, don't hesitate to ask. And then hopefully you will join us at our Bloomington Paint Department, and we can help you even further there. So without further ado, Katie and Briar.
All right, once again, my name is Briar, and the demo that we're going to start off with today is with the Fuse It product from Liquid Nails. So what we're going to show off is the instant grab feature. So that being said, the product is made for when you're putting, let's say, chair rail, tile, like a backsplash, or really anything on a vertical substrate. By applying the product, it'll actually adhere and hold while, let's just say on a chair rail, you can tack nails. So it'll instant grab and it will hold, but it is also recommended that you put some fasteners in the substrate as well. So that being said, Yep. If you want to hold that.
Yeah.
So another benefit of the Fuse It is you can use it on multiple substrates. You can really use it on any surface other than polyethylene and polypropylene are the only two substrates you cannot adhere. The reason behind that is it's a really slick plastic and it has difficulties adhering to that, but really anything else, concrete, tile, wood, even metal, it'll adhere. Can be used indoors and outdoors. And it can also be applied down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So even a day like today, you could use it outside and it would cure. One of the best things about this is it's water cleanup. So a product that can be used outside in 20 degrees that is actually water-based is very innovative. Most products similar to it, not going to state the competitor, but they're really only applicable down to like 30 or 35 degrees. So vertical substrate, just like that, you can apply really anything under the sun. The other demo that I like to do is one that shows different substrates and also how they bond together and how they hold, and that, I guess, horizontally, it can be pushed aside and the pressure going downwards will not pop the adhesion features. And it's really just doing multiple substrates. Like I said before, you can do virtually anything. But let's say if you're doing a project at home, even like the numbers on the side of your house, to vinyl siding, it would adhere. Metal to really any plastic, like I said, other than polyethylene and polypropylene.
Briar, is that an
It is an instant grab, yes. It's almost like a weld.
So how long does it then take to cure after it's used?
Only about 15 minutes. So within 15 minutes, it'll be pretty stiff, but it could be still flexible. After about an hour, it will be totally concrete. It will not bend or move or really do anything. So that's the Liquid Nails Fuse It. Sold at Home Depot exclusively. It's not in any other retail outlet.
It's an aisle two.
Aisle two. One other thing that I can pass around really quick is a block that's held together with Fuse It. And you can see all the different substrates that are held together. So there's even glass, closed cell, foam, wood, metal, galvanized. So if you want, I can pass this around. You can kind of pick at it and see what it's like. I guess we can do the paint demo
Do the
too.
paint,
Yeah.
Okay. What was this? Oh,
Oh, and I can pass this around as well. This was just done this morning, so it's pretty much cured. But as you can see, water doesn't affect Fuse It either. So, being that it's water-based, it actually is sealed in the water and it wouldn't actually separate. So if you want, you can pass that around as well.
What's the cost of the tube?
Cost of a tube is $5.98 a tube.
yep. Let's have pencils.
And then I have pencils as well. On the way out, you can grab those carpenter pencils.
Yep.
So, like I said earlier, PPG does a lot of different products. We're very innovative. Fuse It is one of the innovations that came from aerospace technology. So Boeing actually uses this particular adhesive to hold together their like 747, 737 planes. So it's actually very interesting in products. So now we're going to move on to like paint demos, and we're going to show off one of my new paints.
I'm excited for this paint. Does anybody have any new decks or any
Projects.
paint projects that you're gonna have to do this summer?
Cool.
Okay, awesome. This is one of my favorite paints now, and stains as well, especially for new decks. After it's cured, we're gonna talk about some of those that he has available, but
Really the features and benefits of the products as well.
sorry,
Alright, so the paintbrush.
put it all down here.
I'm just gonna pop the top on this first, I guess.
So we're gonna keep this here.
Actually, probably need the room. Just throw it behind you. So just like Katie was stating, the Ppg Timeless comes in a variety or a category, different categories of products. To start off, there's the exterior stain, which is most utilized for decks and siding. This is the premier stain in Home Depot and really industry-wide. You guys have ever heard of the product called Sicken before, like Sicken stain? This took a lot of the technology from Sickens and was actually re-engineered and reformulated to be more advanced. It has a higher pigmentation than really any other stain out there. So you get a lot of color tones, you get a lot of the natural wood characteristics coming through when you apply the stain. This one is actually the oil that can be applied down to 50 degrees. We have a water-based formulation that can be applied down to 35 degrees. But oil is superior when it comes to climates like Minnesota with ice and snow. So we do put a lifetime guarantee on the product as well. So the deck or siding that you're applying the stain to would be protected for the life of the deck. So just like I said earlier, it's very high in pigmentation. That technology is transparent iron oxide pigments, which is proprietary to PPG. Those pigments actually soak into the wood deeper than any other pigment in the industry because they're a lot finer as well. That's how we get the protection. So they actually absorb ultraviolet rays from the sun, where a lot of other products reflect. Yeah, it's just one of the premier stains out there. The technology in it is more advanced than really anything we've ever done before. And it
opaque and a semi-transparent?
So it comes in a variety of opacities. So from the lighter tones of like a natural transparent, we then go to semi-transparent, which is that water-based that I was talking about. And that is also available in the water-based semi-solid, and solid, which is totally opaque. So we have a lot of different opacities, great question, which are really used during the lifespan of the deck. Going in a little farther in depth, when you have a brand new deck, you're not going to paint it solid or stain it solid color. You're going to do either a toner or a semi-transparent or a transparent stain that will show off the life and the characteristics of the deck. Whereas a deck gets older in its life, you apply more of an opaque or transparent to cover up the blemishes and the imperfections. So that's the Ppg Timeless exterior stain. I'll then talk about the exterior Timeless paint. This is a first for Home Depot. It's a one-coat exterior that is lifetime guaranteed as well. Home Depot has had other paints in the past, but that were of super premium quality, but they were not one coat guaranteed. So I do have a brochure that has the 1,000 guaranteed one coat colors for both interior and exterior, and we can hand those out on the way out as well as you're leaving. But what makes this product superior is it has a high build formulation. So if you have a siding that's chipping and flaking, there's a lot of imperfections. We do recommend that you sand or scrape all those imperfections off. But when you apply the high build, it actually fills in a lot of those voids. So it gives a very sleek, very smooth look when it's actually filling in a very aggressive or very coarse texture. So that can be applied down to 35 degrees. Comes in multiple different sheens, the flat satin semi-gloss for exterior. And we do recommend, I guess we can back up a little bit for applicators for the stain if you'd like.
Yeah.
We did bring an applicator, I can let you speak to
This
that.
is our most popular one to apply for any of the deck stains or the wood oil. And it comes with refills as well. This is also located in L2. But this has been the best, I think, that I've heard customers say that it even works on like your cedar shingles and stuff. It gets right up underneath that. So that's really good for that.
No, absolutely.
And you can also put like a broom handle underneath. So if you're doing the deck, you don't have to sit there and on your knees or anything like that. You can just apply that. It's easier to get in the cracks of that.
You want to talk about the roller as well?
Which roller?
The one coat roller?
Oh yeah, the one coat roller. PBG, because the Timeless is exclusive to Home Depot, they tested all of Home Depot's rollers that we carry, and this one is the best that applies in one coat.
Yep. That particular roller is designed to actually release the paint at an even rate. So where others, not saying they're glopping it on, but it wouldn't go on as smooth or as even. It's really just the purple roller at Home Depot. This is the only purple roller.
Yeah.
That's really how we address it. But it is considered their best. So it's shed resistant. Like I said, it's manufactured or engineered to release the paint at a certain rate. So.
Another brush that I like is the Wooster Shortcut. It's about $5.50, $6. It's a really good brush, and if you have a really steady hand, sometimes I don't even have to tape off like my trim or anything like that. I use this all the time. I love it, and it's a good quality brush. So
from there, finally, I guess we have the interior Timeless. This is also a new product. It's innovative because it is a one-coat guaranteed paint as long as you use one of those 1,000 colors. It is also Home Depot's toughest, most wear-resistant paint. With confidence, it's good for kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, if you have kids or pets. It's very scrubbable, very washable, can be used really in any application. Can be applied down to 50 degrees, but more than likely you're not going to apply it below that anyways. So from there, you want to do some painting?
Can I ask you
Yes.
about you said that Timeless is good on new decks, but what about old decks?
Great question. So on an older deck, depending on the life state that it's in, you usually want to use something that's more opaque or more solid color. So we do have the solid color stain. That is about the same price point where this is $43 a gallon. I believe the solid color is $1 more per gallon.
And also, do you have chipping or peeling on your deck? Okay. So you need to strip your deck.
Yep, slowing down a little bit. The key to success with the longevity of a deck is to seal it, to protect it from the elements. Well, the only way you're going to seal it effectively is if you prep and clean and strip and sand the deck. So depending on the life of your deck right now or the state of your current deck, you may have to actually use a wood cleaner, which most wood cleaners contain a chemical called oxalic acid. It almost is like liquid sandpaper, is how I would describe it. So it takes all the dead gray wood fibers off the surface of your deck, and it gets you down to raw wood, like clean, raw wood, similar to what you had originally before the weather.
And you have that product?
Yep.
Yes, yep, they do have the,
Bear product.
Yep, it's a Bear product.
And PPG actually recommends you to use that cleaner for their product.
yep. To address prep of a deck a little farther, in our brochures, we do have a simple water test that we recommend you try on your deck before you apply a product. Because if your deck is currently sealed with the sealant that you applied previously, you want to make sure that when you apply a bead of water or just a couple drips of water, it soaks into the wood. That means that there is no sealant, there is no protection, then you can apply a new product over top of that. Because if you're sealing over a sealant, more than likely that next coat of stain isn't going to penetrate. It's probably going to chip and flake. We've all seen decks that chip and flake. What they more than likely were not prepped properly. So prep is key when it comes to taking care of your deck as well. And we have, like I said, those brochures explain step by step how to properly prep.
Does anybody want to try to roll out paint
Any
with
experts
the
here?
new Timeless on here?
No pressure.
I'll try.
Okay.
How long have you had this product?
This product's been in the store since late May, early June, so last spring about. So it's been in the store for just under a year. And that's really all lines. PPG's been in Home Depot for quite some time, but we've really only added the new PPG brands recently.
I have a question. I know
Yes.
Bear products
Okay.
I use them all the time, but
Yep.
they get high ratings often with Consumer Reports
Yes.
and so on.
Yes.
Is that part of the list yet?
So this has yet to be rated on Consumer Reports. That's how new the product is, the product line is. The stain line should be up for review. I believe late April they do their stain line reviews. I know that we missed the timeline for the interior stain, which was middle of summer last year, and we obviously didn't get the exterior because it's not seasoned yet, so we didn't get that either. But coming this late spring, we may see really all products on Consumer Reports. So,
Okay.
great question.
And the exterior isn't in the Bloomington home. It's only a few locations right now, but they're coming this spring,
Yep,
early summer.
March 26th is our launch date for exterior in the particular store that Katie works on. But a lot of surrounding stores have the product. There's really only 2 stores in Minnesota that don't have the exterior yet. Bloomington and then Apple Valley. So beyond that, really every store has it.
But we'll be getting it, so I'm
Yep.
excited for that too.
Yes.
All right. You need that? Okay.
All right, so now moving on to some tips and techniques with brushes and rollers. So there's a lot of different ways you can apply paint, a lot correctly, a lot incorrectly. But I will start with Actually, we'll do the brush first and she can cut in.
Sure.
So a couple different styles of brushes. This is a shortcut. It's very small and petite, but it is very good for, oh, I can't actually open it.
Open it, just open it.
Okay. But it's good for getting into tight spaces because there's not a long handle on it, and it also has a soft rubber grip, so it doesn't wear on your hands and fingers as much. That's not going to work, is it? What am I doing?
Just rip it open.
So when you say tight spaces, can you give some examples?
If you're painting inside a cabinet or around cabinets, if you're doing something, you know, tight space.
Behind something?
Yeah, behind like a sink or a toilet or, you know, something in the bathroom as well. It's because it has a short, stubby handle, you can really get into small spaces. So I will also describe or give the tips on how to properly hold a paintbrush. A lot of people hold it like a pencil, hold it like this. And it's more obvious on a long handle brush. A lot of people hold a paintbrush like this, which is, in my professional opinion, the worst way you could hold a brush because you're going to get writer's cramp. It's going to cause shaking. You're going to be sore after a short period of time. The correct way to hold a brush is Ppg. The brush that I chose was the Ppg Eggshell. They actually put a little yellow sticker on the front here. And you take your pointer finger and you actually put it on top of that little yellow sticker. And you let the handle rest in the palm of your hand, and then you pinch it with your thumb. So by doing that, you actually choke down on the brush, so you're a lot closer compared to holding like a pencil, so that decreases shaking, and then it also gives you more control. And then more importantly, and most importantly, is you don't get fatigue. So you're not going to get that writer's cramp. So that is actually ideal when you see a lot of professional painters. They almost all hold a brush like this.
So why is the handle so long? That's what I asked Briar
Yes.
today. If that's how you hold a paintbrush.
Yes, so there is balance. Balance is important. If you have a lot of weight on one side, that's why the shortcut is a little unbalanced, but it's still a good brush. Also, this larger, more broad handle is designed for people with larger hands, so like men. Whereas I don't have another one with me, but Ppg Eggshell actually makes a skinnier handle that's actually for women or someone with smaller hands. So depending on, if you go to the store, I guess, depends on who you are, but you can try out each handle and see what's more comfortable to fit your hand. So.
Cool.
And then, if you want, I can have you cut in. So what I'll actually have you do is just dip the paint, or I'll actually load it up for you. And I'll do a little bit. So a tip on cutting in, load the brush a fair amount, but not to the extent of it dripping off totally wet. And initially all you're doing is just getting paint onto the wall. You don't have to get a fine line initially, but just make sure you get relatively close within a 1/4 inch. And then from there you can come back and feather and actually get the cut in to be exact and spot on. So, I know the lighting's not the greatest here, but right there, definitely applied a little bit too much too fast. It's always good to have a rag with you as well.
Oh, you need paper towel?
No, it's fine.
So for places with trim, just like this,
Yes.
would you want to tape essentially right here?
Yes, so taping's recommended if you're not extremely comfortable cutting in without tape. If you've done it a fair amount, I mean, it's really nothing to worry about. As long as you carry a rag, damp rag with you, you can always clean up anything that you get. Another little tip that I have is you should always have a 5-in-1 tool or a putty knife with you to really smooth out anything, but also with your damp rag. I don't have one with me right now, unfortunately, but you can actually take that damp rag and put the putty knife in there and you can get a straight edge. So that little spot that I missed there, you could actually just level it out with the damp rag as well. So if you want, you can just cut in and then kind of feather out the top.
Just right by the trim?
Yep, just right through there. And if you recall,
I just messed up the trim.
no, that's fine, don't worry about it. So it takes a steady hand, it takes a little bit of time, and initially she held it like a pencil, and she didn't have that many, or that good of a grip or that well of a position on it. But now that she's choked down a little bit, she can get a little better. It's a little better of an angle at it. Now, another technique that I recommend is I always move from top to bottom, left to right, just like you're reading. And this particular brush has an angle on it. This is a 2.5-inch angle from Ppg Eggshell. When I paint, I hold it like this, like I mentioned earlier, but this is your top leading edge. So whether you're doing the ceiling, or if you're doing the floor, or the baseboard, yes, the trim, if I was doing this, if I was standing up, I would actually want this to be the leading edge, to be the pointing edge, is what I should mention. So you would actually go like that across. So any questions on paintbrushes or applicators?
Do you recommend a certain size for this type?
That is really up to the painter themselves or the user themselves. I like the 2.5-inch because you get a lot of space or a lot of area done in a pretty fast pace. But you can use down to a 1-inch paintbrush, or some pro painters use a 3 or 3.5-inch paintbrush because they're very confident and very, swift with what they do. So, great question, though.
What do you recommend for natural or synthetic?
So this one here is a polyester nylon blend. With the Ppg interior, we do recommend a blended. We do not want to use a straight natural. So you can use a total synthetic, a polyester brush. But as long as you're not using a natural bristle, because those are really reserved for oil products, as in the stain.
The wood oil?
Sorry?
No, the wood oil.
Yeah, the wood oil stain. Water-based products generally want the blend bristles. But they do make Ppg makes the Chinex, which is total synthetic. That brush is good for really a lot of the lower end paints because they have a tendency to wick the paint off faster, or these have a tendency, the blend has a tendency to hold
Hold
in
it.
a lot of the paints. So,
Yep.
great question though.
If you ever come to the Bloomington Home Depot, every single associate in my department is really, really good. They're all tenure, so they have really good techniques. They have a lot of product knowledge. They'll tell you everything that you need, so you don't have to keep coming back and forth. So I have a lot of confidence in the people that work at my store. So yeah, just stop in, and anybody at my desk is gonna tell you exactly what you need.
Yeah. So is there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. So once you do your trim
Yep.
with the brush, then you get into the roller.
Yes, exactly, and that's our
And
next
then
step.
Roller, I mean, I've heard different opinions, but are you supposed to do the crisscross, or I just want your plan?
No, absolutely. So if you'd like, I can demonstrate directly on what you're speaking to. So for this small area, we're just going to use the mini roller. This is also a purple roller, which is the 1-coat guarantee, so it's really designed for this particular paint. Just going to load this up quick. And to answer your question, as I demonstrate, the W pattern is really just a way to get product from the paint tray to the wall. It's not how you should walk away or just leave the paint. Because more than likely, if you do it that way, you're going to leave a lot of imperfections or a lot of roller marks. So what I do is a technique called back rolling or final finishing. And by doing that, you get a totally flawless finish that is applied evenly throughout the substrate. And it also helps to condition a roller as well. So when you first start a roller that was just out of the box, just like I did, you do want to work the paint in a little bit. Further from that, or to add on to that, it's actually good to mist or lightly get the roller wet. So think of paint like shampoo in your hair. Would you put shampoo directly in your hair without getting it wet? No, because you want to be able to condition and actually get the roller ready to absorb the product that you're putting in. But I just kind of cheat by just applying it a couple times and getting it worked in. So when we do your W pattern, which I'll use for example, that's really just getting the paint onto the substrate. And I'll do this as legitimate as I can by doing W's and such. Or you can call it like the random technique, where you just apply paint randomly. So I'm not sure how well you guys can see that, but it is applied at an even rate. You can see peaks and valleys in the finish. So moving from here, what I do is a back roll that I mentioned earlier by holding the roller as an arrow pattern facing or pointing the direction that you're moving. Because this is the heaviest end, this is where the paint is actually fed from. If you were to hold it reversed, you'd actually have an excess amount of paint left behind and you'd actually increase your problem more. So, yes. So, top to bottom, left to right, just like I mentioned, I do a back roll, which is really just letting the weight of the roller physically overlapping about 50%. By doing that, you get almost a perfect finish. That's a lot more uniform than what we had before. And you can do that a couple times, but you don't want to overwork the paint either. Do you have a question? Okay.
Would you
So-
demonstrate that again?
Yeah, absolutely. We can flip this around. Do you just want to see this or on a fresh?
No.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So by doing that, you're getting really an even, uniform coating throughout, and then you can't see what they call flashing. So if you look down a long hallway, you'll notice this now that I say this. If you look down a long hallway that has some sheen to it, you'll see the individual roller almost hashes, or flashing is what they call that. And that's more than likely someone that applied paint at an uneven rate, or they didn't back roll. Paint's not biased, it's meant to go on really simply, especially with the Ppg Timeless. It's designed to be really effortless when you put it on. It's not going to have a lot of drag, it's not going to give you a lot of issues, and it actually has a longer work time than a lot of other one-coat products. I'm not going to name any specifically, but Home Depot carries another one-coat product that has a tendency to dry at a rapid rate. This dries a little slower for a one-coat. And the way we can do that is the Timeless. As you can see, it's really not that thick of paint. It's actually pretty low in viscosity. So that being said, it doesn't have to dry at a really rapid rate because it's not thick. So we get our hide and coverage, our one-coat hide and coverage, from the solids content in this product. So the volume solids, the percentage in this, I'm not sure the exact percentage in this particular can, but it's a lot higher than the competitors. So the competitors cheat a little bit by putting a thick paint on and putting it on about twice as thick as we would. So with confidence, this goes about 400 square feet per gallon, which is a really good square foot coverage. That competitor that I'm talking about does about 300 square feet per gallon, and it's actually more expensive as well. So you're getting less square foot coverage for a more expensive product. So, what else we got?
Talk about the
Questions?
sheen, the matte finish looks the best, but it's not as durable.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the pluses and minuses?
No, wonderful question. So a lot of different sheens have different applications. Starting with the flat is the flattest. Sheen doesn't have any really flash or sheen when you look at it. Bumping up from there is the matte finish. So a matte finish can also be known as a flat enamel. Those paints are designed to look flat, but still be washable and scrubbable and durable. Where the flat that I mentioned before, it's really not that washable and scrubbable. It could mar very easily. If you're walking down the hallway and your vacuum or broom hits the wall, that finish could mar.
And then you're gonna paint again.
Yeah, and then you have to repaint it. So that's why a matte finish is superior, because it's scrubbable and washable.
So when that says flat, is it matte?
This one in particular
For
is a matte
PPG
finish. Yes.
Yeah, timeless.
Yep, this is a scrubbable, washable flat, so it's considered a matte finish. So moving up the scale, Eggshell is the next sheen. I mean, there is some other ones, as in pearl or low luster, but Home Depot just really has Eggshell bumping up from matte. Eggshell, in my opinion, is the universal. You can really use that anywhere throughout the house: kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, living room, dining room. It's not particularly recommended for a high moisture area like a bathroom, but it could be used. The benefit of Eggshell is it's a low sheen product that is very durable
And scrubbable.
and scrubbable and washable. Moving back a little bit to the matte finish, the lower the sheen, or I'm saying this reverse, but the low sheen of matte hides imperfections. So if you have bumps or scratches on your walls, matte or flat is going to hide those bumps and scratches. As you increase the sheen to eggshell or satin or semi-gloss or high gloss, those imperfections will be
show.
amplified. So you'll definitely see those pop out. So answering your question directly, I mean, flat or matte, bumping up to eggshell, satin, semi-gloss is really standard for most places, but there's a lot of in-between sheens that some different vendors or different companies manufacture as well, like velvet. Yes?
I've got a question about a technique for repainting wooden panels.
Okay.
Because when I use a brush to paint towards that recessed panel,
Yep.
and then use a roller on the recessed panel, I can still see
The
the edge.
Yep, and the brush marks, are you saying? So there's a couple ways to cheat that and to get it out. Is you can put an additive in there.
Floetrol.
Floetrol, yes. Flood makes a product. PPG actually owns Flood. Floetrol is actually a brush stroke eliminator or a paint extender. So what it does is it prolongs the dry time of paint. So when you actually apply the product, it's going to dry at a slower rate. And by doing that, you actually get more of a clean or sleek finish.
Yeah.
It's a Flood product called Floetrol is the latex
Yep.
one. And they also make Penetrol for oil. So the other little tip that I have for you in painting doors and trim is if you use a very low nap roller, or what I recommend is a foam roller or a foam brush.
Yep.
That will also help eliminate the stipple or the eggshell finish that a roller would leave behind, and also would help with the brush marks. So, yes.
I just had a question with the one coat. How well does it cover something that is not a white back?
No, that's a great question. So we have 1,000+ colors in that brochure that I mentioned. Those colors have to be of 99% opacity in order to be approved as a one-coat color. And that is tested, we actually do our lab tests with a bright red called crimson red. So it's a very, almost blood red. Answering your question really more directly is if it fails those tests, it automatically doesn't go in our color spectrum, but we had to actually add about 49 colors last year in order to get the 1,000 mark. So it took us a little work to get there, but we definitely made it. So with confidence, any color that you choose out of that brochure will cover in one coat over anything. The stipulation with that is if there is damaged sheetrock or anything behind it. The little thing that I have learned over my time is the substrate has to be clean, so there can't be any foreign contaminants, dry, cannot be wet, moisture cannot be present, dull, it cannot be shiny, and sound, it has to be solid. So clean, dry, dull, and sound. If it meets those 4 characteristics or criterias, you should not have any issues. So, yes.
So if you're paint, I mean, this is kind of a small sample size. So if we're talking about a wall, and you have a roller, would you start then at the top with just kind of an edge brush like that? Do the same thing above the trim, and then on a much grander scale of a wall in a room, how would you recommend doing that technique? Because I could envision it being a little bit harder with such a large.
Yep.
Area.
Great question. What I recommend is do one wall at a time. When I mentioned cutting in before, we really only cut in the bottom, but you should almost cut in, or you should, not almost, you should cut in the entire picture frame of a wall. But only do one wall at a time. Because if you do multiple walls in a room that has 4 walls, if you cut in every single corner and then you come back, the paint will more than likely be dry by the time you come back to roll it. And then it gets more flashing, or what we actually call in the industry is picture framing, where you can see the different rates of paint drying.
Right.
If that answers your question.
Well, what about the technique you showed about the, what was it, backstroke?
Back rolling?
Yeah, back rolling.
Yeah.
No, wonderful question. So what's recommended when you paint, let's say, a 10-foot wall, is you do only, really as far as you're comfortable doing, I recommend about 3 or 4 feet at a time and progress from left to right. Because the key there is to keep a wet edge. Because once again, if the paint dries, if you stop somewhere, let's say in the middle of your project, you want to go get lunch or get something to drink, if you stop in the middle of a wall and it dries and you come back to paint, you're going to see an overlap mark or a lap mark. Whereas if you keep a wet edge continuously all the way around the room, it'll be just one even coat of paint. So great question, like when you're back rolling, back roll only about 4 feet at a time after you applied your paint, and then move on to the next 4 feet, and then blend that in before the previous one dries or
So
cures.
you're not going full
I
height of the.
I would.
You do,
Yeah,
okay.
I would recommend it, depending, obviously there's scenarios where you can't do that. But in a typical bedroom, I go from left to right, top to bottom, but from ceiling to floor. Yep. And
That's not, and that's still pretty easy to do. That's my question. Is
Yeah.
it not harder to?
it's a little harder to control, but if you buy which they have at Home Depot, like a 3-foot or a 2-foot extendable handle,
Yeah.
that can get you with ease from the floor or the ceiling to the floor. Where I've seen numerous accounts, and this is my own personal experience, you see people that paint their room or whatever, and they paint up top and then they paint the bottom after, and you can see that lap mark. It just creates more issues and more lap marks. Where
Right.
if you can just get a continuous flow, and that's really what the professionals do as well.
And then 2 more questions.
No, absolutely.
So what's your recommendation for prepping from start to right when you're about to paint?
Okay,
Would you-
so that goes back to the little categories
Right.
or characteristics: clean, dry, don't sound.
Right.
You want to make sure it's clean, that there's no foreign contaminants. So like in a kitchen, if there's grease or stains or
TSP.
dust, yes. You want to use TSP, trisodium phosphate. That will actually remove a lot of the contaminants. If there's any mold issues there, you could add bleach to that TSP, and you'd actually kill the mold while cleaning the wall with that heavy-duty cleaner.
Does it take smoke?
Smoke is...
You're gonna want to use a Kills or
Yeah. Smoke...
primer.
Yep. Do clean smoke damage, whether it's fire or cigarette smoke damage. Do clean it before you paint it. But it really comes down to, like Katie said, you have to use an oil or a shellac-based primer over top of that to seal that stain in. Yep.
Yep.
That rule also exists with water stains. So just like the Ppg Timeless interior, this is a water-based product. If you apply a water-based paint over a water stain, that water stain could reactivate or reoccur or seep through the paint, and it could create a ring or a small, color. But if you use the oil or the shellac, it'll actually create a membrane that seals everything in behind it. So, great question, though. Did you have another question?
This is very trivial, but
That's fine.
say you finished your painting, that's great. Now, I can never clean up the rolls.
The rollers?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you do that?
So there's a couple different ways to do it. A mini roller like this, they're really meant for one-time use and toss when you're done. But when we talk about the 9-inch or greater, we don't have the tool with us today. But there's actually, it's almost like a little pump that you put in here, and it has little prongs. Take a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket of water or a utility sink, and you actually pump. When you do the pumping action, it spins the roller, and it spins at a very high, rapid circular motion, and it actually throws the paint off of the roller. And it's really easy to use. They sell them at Home Depot for like $5 or $6.
Yeah.
Pretty
They're in
affordable.
aisle 2 as well.
And you do it in a gallon or just a bucket of water,
Yeah, it's just like a 5-gallon bucket or like a utility sink. Something.
and that can be reused.
Absolutely, yes. A pro painter, and I'm just talking about pros because that's what I deal with on a regular basis. Pro painters, they will use a roller for about 20 to 30 days. As long as you're not doing drastic color changes or it's something goofy happening. But they can reuse quality rollers like this one here. You can reuse this multiple times. In a DIY, you're probably not gonna be painting every single day. But one little tip that I have is when you're done using that spinning, I don't know what they call it, but that paint extractor,
It's a roller cleaner.
roller cleaner, yes. Or if you're just rinsing it out and just using a 5-in-1 tool, which I don't have with me either, or using your hand to wring out the paint, actually set the roller vertically. So that will allow all the paint and all the water to seep to the bottom and dissipate. Or if you leave it like this on, let's say, a table or in a tote, it'll all pool up there and it could actually mold or not dry out thoroughly. And then if you do this as well, you could also get like a little imperfection. So it's very important that you stain. So great questions. Yes.
Talking about overworking the paint, or
Yes.
how can you do that, or what
Yeah. Do you want to answer that one, Kate?
Well, a lot of people, they'll just keep going over the same area because when paint goes on and it's wet, it's not drying obviously right away. So they'll just keep going over. And when you keep over rolling, when you're over rolling an area, it's actually pulling the paint off and it'll get sort of chunky almost. So what you want to do is, because you're going to, not with this paint, but some paints are 2 coats, so you're going to eventually go over that. But if you keep continuing to go up and down over the same area, like, oh, that looks too light right there. A lot of people mistake in that. So then they're just keep peeling off the coat they just put on.
Yep. And
It'll be uneven.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. But to add to it as well, some people, they get like boogers is what they call it. They get little tiny things that are peeling off everywhere, and they think it's in the paint can, but it's usually from them pulling paint off the wall, just like Katie stated.
That's stuck on the roller, and then when you move back over it, it just comes off of your roller.
Yeah. So
Yep.
that was a really good question.
Somebody else had a question. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I understood you saying earlier, when you're cutting in ahead of time, you want to come back before that paint dries and roll it?
Yes.
I mean,
It's tough.
yeah.
It is
I
tough.
mean, rather than going and cutting in the whole wall, because paint will dry in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean that's the issue though, is if you get 2 different rapid or 2 different rates of drying, you might see the different flashing of the product. So what I like to use as an analogy is look at paint as a piece of paper. That's really how thin it is. It's really the thickness of about 2 pieces of paper. So if you put that piece of paper on first, cutting in, and then you come back and try to match up that paper, you're gonna see a seam no matter what you do. You'll see an imperfection, whether that's overlapped or equal to or the other way. But getting back to really your question, if you can keep a wet edge, then it'll really incorporate that previous coat and just be one solid piece of paper. If that answers your question?
Yeah, 'cause if you're doing it by yourself, you're cutting in and rolling both.
So to be honest, when I paint at my house, I don't do how he said, and I might not be doing it right, but because of what you just said, you're doing it by yourself and you're worried about that. I just usually do where I'm going to do, and it might take a little longer, but that's so I know it's not going to dry
No, absolutely.
weird on me.
And like I mentioned initially, there's a lot of different ways to paint. This is the way that I was taught through PPG and directly from PPG. And a lot of that technique and really like utilizing our products is from the pro aspect of business.
Yep.
So speaking to Katie or speaking to your question, DIY, it's obviously no offense to you guys, but you don't paint every single day. So you're not going to move at an extreme rate like a painter, like a pro painter.
Another thing that we carry at Home Depot, it's from Shoreline, they make the deck pad that I brought, is called the Edger, or we have a corner. It's sort of, I used it in my laundry room, so I didn't have to tape like where my ceiling meets the top of my wall. It has little wheels on it, and it has like a little like fine like hair bristle. That's a really good product. You don't barely touch the surface with the bristles. It looks like it's almost little beads, and I looked at it the first time I tried it, and I said, this is not gonna work. So I tried it with the thing, and I just lightly pressed the paint, and the beads actually smooth out in those little fibers, and it makes it a clean cut across the edge. So you could also try that as well. Make sure if you do buy that product, you don't submerge the wheels into the paint, because you will have tire tracks along your ceiling. But it works really well. So that's another project or product you can try.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm sorry?
Like your edger.
It's the Edger by Shoreline.
It's like
Yep.
a lime green label.
Yeah, it looks like this. It's in aisle 2 as well. I have a lot of products in aisle 2. It's like it's my busiest shopped aisle in the paint department. So yes.
Any other questions?
You talked about cleaning a wall first. You said to use that as a TSP.
Yep, TSP.
How long after you clean a wall do you wait for that to dry? Or?
So you do want it to be thoroughly dry. What's recommended on the actual TSP label is an hour. So as long as you're not like saturating the wall with drips and runs, it usually dries pretty fast. I'd say within 15 minutes it's probably going to dry. But they do recommend an hour before you apply the powder. Great question. Yes?
What's your favorite filler? You're fixing the wall now, and there's holes from nails and so on.
I personally like the one that goes on pink and it dries white. That way you know, and it's different in every household, your humidity and everything on time for drying. And if it's white, it's dry. A lot of people like that one.
I totally
I
agree.
think it's Dryax.
It's a DAP product.
Yeah, it's a DAP product, yes. Yep, and we actually have, if you're just doing like little ones, there's an actual kit in the paint department that has like about that size, and then it has the little sandpaper in there, a little patch that has an adhesive on the back, and a little putty knife in the kit itself.
So we're getting to the end of our time. Was there any
Yeah.
final questions that we had?
No? All right, well, I have some of those pencils that Briar brought in, if you're interested.
And the brochures as well, if you're interested in colors, or the stain brochures also.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you guys.